Time Layering Trick, Amplify Execution and Daily Output. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. Time feels slippery. You start the day determined, a full list ahead, hours stretched wide in front of you. Yet by evening, you wonder where it all went. The clock moved, but little of consequence was accomplished. You were busy, emails answered, calls taken, fires managed, but not effectively. This is the quiet frustration of modern work: motion without movement, effort without advancement. What if the problem isn't you, but how you see time itself? Most people treat time as flat, an endless, linear surface to be divided into blocks and filled with tasks. But time doesn't work that way. It has texture. It has rhythm. High performers instinctively understand this. They don't manage time the way others do, they layer it, stacking their day in cycles of intense focus, streamlined execution, and deliberate renewal. They move with time rather than against it, and this simple shift transforms how much they achieve without adding a single hour. Carl Jung once said, "Time is a reality, but it is also a concept, and concepts can be reshaped." The way you experience time is not fixed, it's constructed. And when you learn to reshape it through layering, everything changes. This book is about that shift. It's about trading the endless grind for a smarter cadence, one rooted in how your brain and body are wired to perform. You won't find rigid schedules or hollow cliches here. Instead, you'll discover a framework that reorganizes your day into 3 natural layers: deep work for breakthroughs, functional execution for momentum, and micro-rest for renewal. These layers, repeated, become an engine of compounded output that accelerates results while protecting energy. This is not about working harder, it's about working in sync with the way you are built. Layering time doesn't just reclaim lost hours, it restores clarity, sharpens focus, and creates space for meaningful work that once felt perpetually out of reach. What follows is a guide to seeing time differently, to stepping out of the blur of constant busyness and into a structured flow where focus, energy, and execution align. Once you grasp this, productivity ceases to be a struggle. It becomes a rhythm. And rhythms, once learned, are impossible to forget. Chapter 1: The Illusion of Flat Time, Why Linear Days Fail. Morning begins with ambition. The laptop opens, a fresh list waits, and determination feels sharp. Yet, by midday, the hours have dissolved into scattered emails, endless pings, and half-finished tasks. The day becomes a blur of motion without progress. It feels as though you're sprinting in place, lungs burning, but the scenery never changes. This is the quiet frustration of modern work, the sense of being busy without advancing meaningfully. Most people treat time as a flat surface, 8, 10, 12 hours stretched like an unbroken plank, something to be carved into pieces and filled. The trouble is that this view collides with the way the brain actually functions. Focus is not linear. Energy is not constant. Cognitive performance spikes and dips in waves, yet traditional time management forces tasks into rigid boxes that ignore biology. As a result, effort rises, but output stagnates. The fatigue you feel isn't simply from working hard, it's from working against your own rhythms. Neuroscience offers an explanation. Research on ultradian rhythms, the natural 90 to 120-minute cycles of high and low energy, shows that attention isn't built to run continuously. After a period of deep concentration, the brain demands a brief recovery window. Push past this limit, and focus fragments. Distractions slip in more easily. Decision quality erodes. Studies have even found that chronic multitasking lowers measurable IQ during the workday, leaving the mind dulled from constant context switching. High performers escape this trap by abandoning the illusion of flat time. They see the day not as a single stretch of hours but as a series of layered cycles, periods of intense, undistracted work followed by functional tasks, then brief renewal. Instead of trying to be at peak intensity for 12 hours, a neurological impossibility, they operate in pulses, stacking effort and recovery like a well-tuned athlete. This layered approach compounds productivity without draining reserves, because it works with how the brain is wired rather than against it. The difference is stark. Imagine 2 professionals with identical workloads. One grinds linearly, slogging from dawn to dusk, scattering energy across dozens of tasks. The other begins with a focused block free from interruptions, tackles critical work while fresh, then shifts to lighter execution tasks before closing the day with renewal and planning. By aligning energy layers with the nature of the work, the second professional does less multitasking, feels less depleted, and accomplishes more with fewer hours. The first ends drained. The second finishes deliberately. You can test this today. First, audit your day. For the next 2 or 3 days, note when focus feels sharpest and when it falters. Most will notice natural peaks mid-morning and declines mid-afternoon. Next, isolate one important task for your next peak window. Block 90 minutes, silence notifications, close extra tabs, and guard this block like a meeting. Resist the urge to check messages or skim distractions. When time's up, step away for 10 minutes. Stretch. Walk. Reset. Notice how that single block often outproduces entire scattered days. Linear time is an outdated lens. Treating your day as layered changes everything. Work shifts from a grinding marathon to an intentional sequence of sprints and recoveries, each reinforcing the next. Instead of battling exhaustion, you harness momentum. Productivity stops feeling like a force and begins to feel like flow. Tomorrow, protect one block and test it. The results will speak loudly. Next, we'll see why this method works so powerfully by uncovering the hidden biological clock running inside your brain, its ultradian rhythms, and how syncing to them unlocks effortless execution. Time is not flat, energy flows in natural cycles. Focus peaks last roughly 90 to 120 minutes before declining. Aligning work with brain rhythms amplifies output while reducing fatigue. Where does your energy dip daily? And how could one protectively focus, block, or reshape it? Tomorrow morning, schedule one 90-minute deep work block and guard it fiercely. Chapter 2: The Science of Ultradian Rhythms. Working with your brain, not against it. Hidden beneath the surface of every waking day is a biological clock that few notice but all obey. It is not the circadian rhythm most people know, which governs sleep and wake cycles. Instead, it is a subtler pattern running inside the day itself, a repeating wave that controls focus, energy, and mental sharpness. These are ultradian rhythms, the body's natural cycles that last roughly 90 to 120 minutes, followed by brief recovery periods. Align with these rhythms, and work begins to feel fluid, even effortless. Ignore them, and the mind drifts into fatigue and distraction, no matter how strong the willpower. Scientists first uncovered ultradian rhythms while studying sleep. They noticed that the brain passes through 90-minute stages, cycling between deep and lighter sleep phases. Later research revealed that this same pattern continues during waking hours. Mental energy rises and peaks for a window of high focus, then gradually declines, signaling the brain to pause. Pushing past this window triggers stress responses, cortisol rises, concentration splinters, and simple tasks take longer. What feels like laziness is often just biology demanding a reset. Evidence for this is everywhere. A study from the U.S. Army found that soldiers who worked in 90-minute cycles with breaks performed significantly better under cognitive strain than those who powered straight through. Similar findings have appeared in academic research. Chess grandmasters plan their games in bursts, elite musicians practice in focused sprints, and high-level executives schedule strategy sessions for no more than 2 hours before shifting gears. These examples point to a truth: performance is rhythmic, not constant. The best do not grind endlessly, they pulse. Yet most work environments ignore this. Offices stretch hours flat, demanding attention from morning until evening with little regard for these invisible waves. Meetings scatter focus. Notifications fracture it further. As a result, workers spend large portions of their day operating in the low end of the rhythm curve, mistaking fatigue for failure and doubling down on effort when what they truly need is structured renewal. The brain is treated like a machine meant to run nonstop, when in reality it behaves more like a muscle that grows stronger in intervals. Imagine rowing with the tide versus against it. When you ride with the current, effort compounds naturally. When you fight it, each stroke feels heavier, and progress slows. Ultradian rhythms are the current. Catching them means working during natural peaks and resting during natural valleys. It feels counterintuitive at first because culture praises grinding through exhaustion, but biology disagrees. The brain thrives in cycles of push and pause. Adapting to these rhythms begins with awareness. Pay attention tomorrow to your focus curve. Notice when your mind feels alert and when it fogs. Those dips are not weaknesses, they are signals. In those moments, step away for 10 or 15 minutes. Stretch. Breathe. Walk outside. This is not wasted time, it is the necessary recharge that fuels the next peak. When you return, the difference is immediate, clarity sharpens, decisions come faster, and complex work feels lighter. Working with ultradian rhythms is like syncing to a hidden metronome. You are no longer imposing rigid schedules against your biology but instead weaving tasks into its natural tempo. It is not about doing more, it is about timing the right work at the right moments. This is the backbone of the time layering trick. In the next chapter, we will explore how to channel this science into the most powerful layer of all, deep work, where breakthroughs live. Ultradian rhythms govern focus in 90 to 120-minute cycles. Ignoring these waves leads to fatigue and fractured attention. Aligning work with these rhythms creates effortless flow and sharp output. When does your focus peak and decline each day, and how could tracking it reshape how you work? Tomorrow, observe your focus cycles and mark your sharpest 90-minute window. Use it for your most important task. Chapter 3: The Deep Work Layer, Your Cognitive Powerhouse. Deep work is the cornerstone of amplified execution, the layer where breakthroughs occur and progress accelerates. It is the focused, undistracted effort applied to cognitively demanding tasks that stretch the mind and generate results of lasting value. Unlike surface-level work, emails, messages, quick decisions, deep work demands solitude, concentration, and an environment stripped of interruptions. It is not about being busy. It is about going beneath the noise to access the highest tier of thinking, the kind that moves the needle rather than merely spinning it. The human brain thrives in deep focus. During extended concentration, neural networks synchronize, allowing disparate ideas to connect and insights to emerge. Studies show that uninterrupted periods of focus increase the density of myelin, the protective sheath surrounding neurons, effectively rewiring the brain for greater cognitive performance over time. This is why authors, inventors, and scientists have historically produced their finest work in isolation, far removed from constant distraction. Deep work creates not just output but mastery, compounding skill and efficiency with each session. Yet deep work is increasingly rare. Modern environments are engineered for interruption. Notifications fragment attention, open office plans erode privacy, and the culture of instant response penalizes silence. Every distraction, even a brief glance at a phone, resets the brain's focus, creating what researchers call attention residue. The mind lingers on what it was just doing, dulling concentration on the current task. This residue accumulates over a day, reducing the quality of mental effort. Without deliberate boundaries, deep work becomes nearly impossible. To engage the deep work layer, the first step is to carve out protected space. Select a single 90 to 120-minute block during your natural peak focus period, usually mid-morning. During this time, remove every external stimulus. Silence devices, close unnecessary tabs, and communicate to others that you are unavailable. Treat it as immovable. This is not time that can be traded or casually shifted. It is the foundation upon which layered productivity is built. Within this block, direct attention to tasks that require heavy cognitive lifting, drafting strategic plans, solving complex problems, designing systems, or learning difficult material. This is not the place for minor chores. Deep work thrives on challenge because it pushes the brain to operate at its upper limits, triggering a state of flow, total immersion where time falls away and output rises effortlessly. Flow is not reserved for rare talent. It emerges naturally when focused effort meets meaningful challenge. High performers often structure 2 deep work blocks daily, but starting with one is transformative. Even 90 minutes of uninterrupted focus can outproduce entire distracted afternoons. Over time, These blocks stack like bricks, building momentum. The compounding effect is astonishing. A single high-output session today reduces tomorrow's backlog, clears mental clutter, and frees energy for further focus. Skepticism fades quickly once results appear. Imagine drafting a major proposal in one crisp session instead of dragging it across fragmented hours. Picture learning a new skill without competing tabs and messages siphoning attention. Deep work delivers this leverage not through harder effort but through disciplined focus aligned with the brain's natural rhythms. It is less about doing more and more about doing what matters with intensity. As you embrace deep work, the day takes on a sharper edge. Tasks are separated into layers. High-value efforts rise to the top, shielded from distraction, while low-level chores wait their turn. In the next chapter, we will examine this second layer, functional execution, the engine that clears space for deep work to remain pure and potent. Deep work is focused, distraction-free effort on high-value tasks. One 90-minute deep work block often outproduces entire scattered days. Protecting deep work builds skill, mastery, and compound results over time. Which single task tomorrow would benefit most from 90 minutes of uninterrupted focus? Schedule one deep work block during your peak energy window and defend it relentlessly. Chapter 4: Medium Focus Layer: Mastering Functional Execution. Once deep work has cleared the mental runway, the next layer of productivity begins: functional execution. This is the realm of medium focus tasks, the operational work that keeps life and business moving but does not demand the intensity of deep cognitive effort. Emails, follow-ups, administrative duties, and process management all belong here. They are necessary, but when allowed to bleed into high-focus windows, they dilute the quality of thought reserved for deeper work. By isolating them into their own layer, they are completed efficiently without siphoning mental energy from tasks that truly matter. Functional execution thrives in the hours following deep work. After 90 to 120 minutes of concentrated effort, the brain naturally descends from its peak state. This shift is not a drop into uselessness but a change in gear, perfect for structured but less demanding activity. During this phase, attention narrows enough to maintain momentum but does not require the full immersion of flow. It is a space built for throughput rather than insight, where clearing tasks rapidly provides order and control. Research supports this approach. Studies on task batching show that grouping similar medium-focus items reduces cognitive load by minimizing context switching. Every time the brain shifts between unrelated tasks, it pays a switching cost in lost attention and slower decision-making. By clustering administrative or logistical duties into defined execution blocks, mental residue is minimized, and output increases. The result is an efficient clearing of clutter that frees the mind to enter the next cycle of focus unburdened. A practical way to use this layer is to time it for natural energy dips, typically early afternoon. This period often follows lunch, when alertness softens but the day still holds productive potential. Rather than forcing deep focus against fading intensity, redirect it toward functional execution. This might involve answering accumulated emails, completing routine forms, organizing files, scheduling, or other operational tasks that maintain momentum without straining creative or analytical faculties. The key is containment. Functional execution must not be allowed to sprawl across the day. If unchecked, medium-focused tasks expand endlessly, encroaching on deep work and draining energy meant for high-leverage thinking. Limit execution blocks to 90 minutes or less, applying the same discipline as with deep work. Enter with a list of specific items. Move through them systematically and decisively. This deliberate approach keeps functional work from metastasizing into distraction disguised as productivity. This layer also serves as a psychological reset. Deep work can be mentally taxing. Following it with lower intensity output provides a sense of progress without overexertion. The brain, relieved from heavy lifting, shifts into a steady rhythm where tasks flow smoothly, and completion fuels momentum. High performers often speak of riding this rhythm. Deep focus builds breakthroughs, medium focus clears the slate, and the cycle repeats. Functional execution is also where technology assists rather than intrudes. Automations, templates, and tools designed to streamline recurring tasks fit naturally here. They accelerate throughput without compromising quality. This layer rewards efficiency over brilliance. Speed matters more than ingenuity. By tightening operational work into neat blocks, you prevent it from polluting your highest value hours. Layering in this way transforms how time feels. Instead of blurring tasks together into a draining continuum, each segment holds a purpose. Deep work drives progress, functional execution maintains order, and each prepares the mind for recovery before the next wave begins. In the following chapter, we will explore that third layer, recovery and micro-rest, the invisible hinge on which sustainable performance turns. Medium-focused tasks fit best after deep work, during natural energy dips. Batching functional tasks reduces context switching and speeds throughput. Controlling execution into defined blocks prevents it from consuming the day. Which operational tasks could you batch into a single 90-minute execution block tomorrow? Create one focused execution block tomorrow afternoon dedicated solely to clearing medium-focused tasks. Chapter 5: Low Focus Layer, Micro-Rest and Energy Renewal. The low focus layer is the silent force multiplier of the time layering trick. While deep work drives breakthroughs and functional execution clears the decks, either is sustainable without deliberate renewal. This layer is not about idleness or wasting time. It is about structured recovery, brief windows of micro-rest that reset the brain and prepare it for the next performance peak. High achievers understand that productivity is not a measure of uninterrupted grind but of cycling between focused exertion and intentional restoration. Biology demands it. After 90 to 120 minutes of concentrated mental effort, the brain's ultradian rhythm shifts downward, signaling a need for recovery. Ignoring this signal pushes the nervous system into a stress response. Cortisol levels rise, focus scatters, and small errors creep in unnoticed. By contrast, even 10 to 20 minutes of strategic rest triggers parasympathetic activation, calming the body and replenishing energy reserves. Neuroscience studies confirm that these pauses sharpen cognitive function and improve subsequent performance. The cost is minimal, but the payoff compounds dramatically over a day. Micro-rest does not require elaborate rituals. Simple practices create powerful effects when used consistently. Short walks disengage the mind from work stimuli while increasing blood flow and oxygen delivery. Brief stretching or mobility routines loosen tension from prolonged sitting and reset posture. Quiet breathing exercises or mindfulness breaks reduce mental noise, creating a state of calm readiness. Even sipping tea or water in silence allows sensory input to narrow and the mind to unclutter. These moments may feel small, but they act as hinges that swing wide doors of renewed capacity. What separates effective recovery from passive distraction is intention. Scrolling through social media or checking messages does not qualify as rest. It merely redirects attention and often leaves the brain more scattered than before. True micro-rest removes stimulation rather than replacing it. It is absence, not substitution, that restores the nervous system. The discipline lies in resisting the false lure of filling breaks with noise and instead embracing stillness or low-stimulation activity. In practice, the low-focus layer slots naturally between cycles of deep work and functional execution. After a focus block, stepping away for 10 to 15 minutes resets mental clarity before transitioning to medium-focused tasks. Later in the day, similar pauses prevent diminishing returns as the brain's energy wanes. These are not indulgences but essential structural elements. Just as athletes recover between intervals to sustain performance, knowledge workers require recovery between cognitive sprints. Case studies of high performers repeatedly highlight this principle. Elite chess players stand and walk between matches. Renowned authors often step outside or perform light chores between writing sessions, letting subconscious processing continue while conscious effort rests. These practices are not accidents. They are embedded within routines precisely because they guard against burnout and maintain long-term output. Embedding micro-rest into daily structure creates a rhythm of work and renewal. Instead of seeing productivity as a solid block, it becomes a sequence of waves: exert, recover, repeat. Each crest grows higher because energy is never fully depleted. This pacing is what makes the time layering trick sustainable over weeks and months. Without this layer, even the most disciplined deep work and efficient execution collapse under exhaustion. Recovery is the invisible architecture of performance. It is the quiet pause that allows the next surge of focus to rise stronger. In the next chapter, we will see how stacking these three layers, deep work, functional execution, and micro rest, unlocks compounded output that builds steadily without draining the mind dry. Micro rest is essential for sustaining focus and energy across cycles. Short, intentional pauses reset the brain and enhance subsequent performance. True recovery removes stimulation rather than replacing it with distraction. Where in your day could you insert a 10-minute break to reset energy without sliding into distraction? After your next deep work block, take a quiet 10-minute pause, walk, breathe, or stretch, and observe the clarity that follows. Chapter 6: Stacking Layers, the Engine of Compounded Output. Individually, deep work, functional execution, and micro rest are powerful. Together, when sequenced deliberately, they create a compounding engine of output that transforms not only how much you accomplish but how you experience your day. Layering is not merely a scheduling tactic, it is a systematic alignment of mental states with the right kind of work, followed by intentional recovery, repeated in cycles. This stacking turns the natural rhythm of focus and renewal into a structure that accelerates execution without draining energy reserves. At its core, stacking layers harnesses momentum. Each cycle begins with deep work, the cognitive sprint where breakthroughs occur. Once that block ends, energy dips slightly. Instead of resisting this decline, the shift into functional execution allows you to ride residual focus for medium-demand tasks. This prevents wasted time and maximizes throughput without forcing high-level cognition when it is least available. Finally, a micro-rest segment clears mental residue, resets physiology, and primes you for the next deep work block. Rather than fighting the tide of mental energy, stacking layers flows with it, turning natural peaks and troughs into an engine of renewal and sustained output. This compounding effect mirrors how athletes train. In interval training, short bursts of intense effort are followed by lighter activity and rest, allowing repeated sprints without collapse. Knowledge work operates the same way. A single cycle sharpens focus. A second builds on the first, clearing accumulated tasks and refueling mental capacity. By the third, output feels almost effortless because energy is being managed deliberately, not depleted recklessly. Over a day, 2 or 3 such stack cycles deliver hours of high-quality work while leaving energy intact. The psychological shift is profound. Without layering, work often feels like an endless, undifferentiated grind. High-focus tasks blur with low-value ones, recovery is ignored, and fatigue accumulates stealthily until attention splinters entirely. With layering, the day has a rhythm. There is a clear beginning, middle, and renewal, repeated predictably. This cadence removes the guesswork and replaces chaos with a structure the brain learns to anticipate. Each transition becomes a signal. Deep focus begins, functional execution follows, then rest restores. By repeating this pattern, the brain adapts, entering focus faster and disengaging more cleanly during recovery. Research on deliberate practice supports this model. Experts in fields from music to mathematics rarely practice more than 4 to 5 hours of intense concentration daily, broken into discrete sessions separated by rest. They understand that intensity paired with recovery creates mastery. The same logic applies to any high-performance pursuit. When knowledge work is stacked in layers, the quality of thinking compounds because each session is fueled by full attention rather than scattered scraps of mental energy. Implementation begins with intention. Design the day around 2 complete layering cycles. Start the morning with a deep work block, follow it with functional execution, then insert micro-rests before the second cycle. This creates a natural partition between high-value creation and operational throughput while preventing burnout. Over time, the consistency of this rhythm conditions the mind and body to enter peak states predictably, like an athlete stepping onto the track knowing exactly when to sprint. Stacking layers redefines productivity from frantic accumulation to structured flow. It replaces exhaustion with steady propulsion, where each completed cycle not only achieves tasks but strengthens the capacity for the next. By the end of the day, instead of feeling drained, there is often residual energy and clarity, a stark contrast to the depletion that comes from linear, unlayered work. This is the engine of compounded output, the power source that turns daily execution into a sustainable system. In the next chapter, we will take this layered engine and apply it to building an ideal daily blueprint, turning theory into a clear, repeatable routine you can follow tomorrow and every day after. Layering deep work, execution, and rest creates a compounding rhythm of output. Working with natural energy cycles amplifies performance while reducing fatigue. Structured cycles condition the brain to enter focus states faster and sustain them longer. How would your day change if you built it around 2 full layering cycles rather than a continuous block of linear work? Plan tomorrow with 1 complete cycle, deep work, execution, and micro rest, and experience the difference in energy and output. Chapter 7: Designing Your Ideal Daily Blueprint. An ideal daily blueprint is not a rigid timetable filled to the margins. It is a living structure that aligns your natural energy rhythms with the right layers of work, ensuring that focus, execution, and renewal unfold in harmony. Instead of fighting against biology or forcing tasks into arbitrary slots, this blueprint sequences your day around deliberate cycles that amplify both output and sustainability. It shifts productivity from guesswork to design, turning each day into a series of planned peaks and resets rather than a continuous grind. The blueprint begins by anchoring your first deep work block in your highest energy window. For most, this occurs in the morning, before distractions accumulate and mental noise intrudes. Protect this 90 to 120-minute span as if it were immovable. This is where you tackle the single most cognitively demanding task of the day: strategic planning, complex problem solving, and high-level creation. Enter it with clarity on what matters most. Exiting this block delivers a tangible win early, and this momentum primes the rest of the day for steady progress. From there, transition into functional execution. This layer fits naturally into the late morning or early afternoon as energy softens but remains steady enough for medium-focused tasks. Here, batch operational work such as emails, follow-ups, scheduling, and procedural updates into a single block. By clustering them, you limit context switching and prevent these tasks from bleeding into peak focus periods. This section of the blueprint sustains forward motion without depleting your best cognitive hours. The next component is recovery, the hinge on which the blueprint pivots. After functional execution, insert a brief period of micro-rest. 10 to 20 minutes of walking, stretching, breathing exercises, or quiet stillness resets mental clarity and primes you for the second half of the day. This pause is small but strategic. It prevents energy from bottoming out and allows the brain to return to a sharper state for the next cycle of deep work. In the afternoon, add a second deep work block, scaled slightly shorter if needed but still anchored in undistracted focus. By now, your mind is warmed by earlier momentum, making this session an opportunity to advance a secondary high-value task or push an existing project further. Closing the workday with this block solidifies the blueprint's design. The day begins and ends with intentional, high-leverage focus, framed by execution and renewal. The blueprint concludes with an evening wind-down routine that bridges work and rest. A short period for low-focus planning, reviewing accomplishments, setting tomorrow's deep work priority, and clearing loose ends signals closure. This prevents unfinished tasks from lingering mentally overnight, and creates a clean mental slate for the following day. Such a ritual is deceptively powerful, reducing stress and ensuring each day begins prepared rather than reactive. The strength of this blueprint lies in its repeatability. 2 deep work sessions, 1 or 2 execution blocks, and interwoven micro-rests build a cadence that compounds output without depletion. Over time, the brain adapts to this rhythm, entering focus states faster and recovering more efficiently. Flexibility remains essential. Some days may compress into 1 full cycle, others may allow 3. What remains constant is the sequence: focus, execution, recovery, repeat, anchored around energy rather than arbitrary hours. Designing your day this way removes decision fatigue. You no longer wonder what to do next or when to do it. Instead, you ride a planned rhythm that turns time into an ally. In the next chapter, we will explore how to defend this blueprint against the inevitable distractions and interruptions that threaten to derail it. A daily blueprint sequences deep work, execution, and renewal around energy peaks. Consistency conditions the brain to enter focus faster and recover more effectively. Planning tasks within layers removes guesswork and reduces decision fatigue. How would tomorrow change if you anchored it around 2 deep work blocks with execution and recovery layered in between? Draft tomorrow's blueprint tonight: 1 deep work block, 1 execution block, and 1 renewal break, and follow it precisely. Chapter 8: Protecting Deep Work, Guardrails Against Distraction. Deep work is only as effective as the guardrails that defend it. Focus cannot thrive in an environment that permits constant interruption. Each notification, email alert, or casual knock at the door fractures attention, leaving behind residue that lingers even after the distraction has passed. Research shows it can take over 20 minutes to fully regain concentration after a single disruption. Protecting deep work is not simply about willpower. It is about designing conditions that make sustained focus inevitable and distractions nearly impossible. The first guardrail is environmental control. Your surroundings shape your mind more than you realize. A cluttered desk, a noisy workspace, or an open-door policy invites intrusion and weakens mental immersion. High performers create focus zones, quiet, ordered environments where every element signals concentration. This can be as simple as closing a door, wearing noise-canceling headphones, or decluttering visual distractions. These adjustments remove friction points so the mind can descend fully into deep work without the subtle pull of scattered cues. Equally crucial is the removal of digital interference. Modern tools, while useful, are designed to steal attention. Social feeds, chat notifications, and incessant email pings fracture even the strongest focus. Guardrails here include silencing devices, using website blockers during deep work sessions, and setting clear do not disturb signals across communication channels. High achievers treat these sessions like sacred appointments. Availability is temporarily suspended, and colleagues learn to respect these boundaries. In many cases, a simple status indicator or shared calendar block signals this commitment effectively. Time-based guardrails reinforce the sanctity of deep work. Define fixed starting and ending points for each session, and adhere to them. A 90-minute window with a clear boundary creates urgency and trains the brain to deliver its full attention. Without time limits, sessions risk becoming loose and unfocused. Boundaries also prevent fatigue, ensuring deep work ends before focus naturally wanes, keeping the mind eager for the next cycle rather than overextended. Guardrails also extend to preparation rituals. Begin each deep work block with a brief cue that signals entry. This might involve reviewing a single priority, clearing your workspace, or engaging in a brief breathing exercise. These cues prime the brain for immersion, similar to how athletes warm up before a game. Over time, the ritual conditions your mind to associate the routine with concentration, shortening the transition into focus and reducing mental resistance. Social guardrails may be the most challenging yet most transformative. Colleagues, clients, or family often expect instant access, creating pressure to remain perpetually reachable. Counter this by communicating deep work blocks proactively. Informing others that you are unavailable during specific windows sets clear expectations and reduces friction. Over time, this fosters respect for focused work periods, both from others and within your own habits. Defending deep work requires vigilance because distractions are relentless and adaptive. Left unchecked, they infiltrate subtly, an impulsive glance at messages here, a quick reply there, until the session dissolves. Guardrails act as preemptive defenses, removing temptation before it arises rather than relying on in-the-moment restraint. The goal is not to summon more discipline but to architect an environment where discipline becomes automatic. When deep work is consistently protected, its quality compounds. Each session begins faster, runs deeper, and yields results that reinforce the habit. Guardrails transform focus from a fragile state into a stable one, immune to the everyday noise that derails most workers. In the next chapter, we will shift from defending focus to cultivating energy architecture, the internal system that fuels these layers and sustains high performance over time. Deep work demands guardrails that eliminate environmental, digital, and social distractions. Rituals and boundaries train the brain to enter focus quickly and sustain it fully. Protecting focus is less about willpower and more about preemptive design. What distractions most frequently disrupt your focus, and what guardrails could remove them entirely before your next deep work block? Before tomorrow's deep work session, silence all notifications, close unnecessary tabs, and signal "Do Not Disturb" to those around you. Chapter 9: Energy Architecture, the missing link in productivity. Time management dominates most productivity advice, yet time alone is inert. Hours are only useful when paired with the energy required to fuel them. Energy architecture is the framework that underpins layered productivity, ensuring that mental and physical reserves are distributed strategically throughout the day. Without it, even the best designed schedule collapses under fatigue, decision overload, and declining focus. High performers do not just manage minutes, they construct their days around the rhythms that preserve and replenish energy, allowing them to sustain performance without burnout. Energy operates in cycles that mirror the ultradian rhythms discussed earlier, but it is also influenced by choices around sleep, nutrition, movement, and recovery. Sleep forms the cornerstone. Without 7 to 9 hours of quality rest, the brain's ability to focus, recall, and regulate emotion deteriorates. Deep work requires mental sharpness that sleep deprivation erodes quickly. Research shows even mild sleep deficits mimic the cognitive impairment of alcohol intoxication. High performers defend sleep fiercely, treating it not as expendable downtime but as active preparation for high focus output. Nutrition is another lever. Blood sugar fluctuations are among the most common, overlooked energy killers. Meals heavy in refined carbohydrates trigger spikes followed by crashes, pulling focus down with them. By contrast, balanced meals with protein, healthy fats, and slow-digesting carbohydrates stabilize energy, preventing the mid-afternoon fog that sabotages functional execution. Hydration also plays a critical role. Even slight dehydration impairs cognitive performance and mood. Energy architecture integrates these fundamentals seamlessly, ensuring that biological fuel supports mental demands. Movement is equally vital. Long periods of sitting dull circulation, slow oxygen flow, and sap alertness. Incorporating short bouts of physical activity throughout the day keeps energy accessible. Simple actions like standing during calls, walking briefly between blocks of work, or stretching after deep focus sessions reinvigorate both body and mind. These micro-movements align perfectly with recovery periods within the time layering trick, making them natural extensions rather than extra tasks. Recovery extends beyond short breaks and includes deliberate practices that reset the nervous system. Meditation, controlled breathing, or even quiet reflection are proven to lower stress hormones and restore cognitive bandwidth. When integrated into micro-rest segments, these techniques magnify renewal and prepare the brain to re-enter deep work faster. Left ignored, stress accumulates invisibly, dulling focus until output slows and errors rise. Energy architecture treats recovery as an equal pillar to work itself, embedding it into the daily structure rather than postponing it to weekends or vacations. Equally significant is the psychological component of energy. Mental energy is consumed not just by tasks but by decision fatigue, emotional friction, and unresolved concerns. Streamlining decisions through routines, pre-planned meals, or automated workflows frees cognitive bandwidth for higher value thinking. Reducing mental clutter sharpens clarity, making focus easier to sustain. This is why high performers often standardize low-level choices, reserving their most powerful mental states for meaningful, high-impact work. Energy architecture reframes productivity as an ecosystem. When sleep, nutrition, movement, recovery, and mental clarity interlock, each supports the other. Deep work becomes sharper because the brain is primed. Functional execution flows faster because energy remains steady. Micro-rest restores more fully because stress is kept in check. The layered approach to time thrives only when its foundation, energy, is actively maintained. Designing your energy architecture is not complicated. It is a matter of aligning your habits with your biology, treating energy as a resource to be invested wisely, not drained recklessly. In the next chapter, we will explore how this shift from being busy to becoming deliberate completes the transformation, replacing frenetic activity with purposeful action that compounds results. Productivity depends on energy cycles, not just time blocks. Sleep, nutrition, movement, and recovery form the foundation of sustained focus. Streamlined habits reduce decision fatigue and free mental energy for deep work. Which single change, sleep, nutrition, movement, or recovery, would most improve your energy tomorrow? Tonight, plan for one adjustment: an earlier bedtime, a balanced breakfast, or a brief walk between work cycles. Chapter 10: From Busy to Deliberate, Redefining What It Means to Work Smart. Busyness masquerades as productivity. It fills hours with motion but rarely creates meaningful progress. The modern workplace glorifies constant activity. Packed calendars, overflowing inboxes, and rapid-fire responses become signals of dedication. Yet beneath this surface churn lies a hollow truth: being busy often means operating reactively, letting the urgent displace the important. To truly work smart is to replace this frantic pace with deliberate action, shifting from scattered effort to purposeful execution that compounds results over time. Deliberate work begins with clarity. Without a defined target, even the most disciplined routines devolve into managing noise. Each day must start anchored to a single, high-value priority, the task or project that, if advanced, moves you closer to your overarching goals. This focus is what deep work delivers: concentrated effort directed at consequential outcomes. By placing this work first, before the gravitational pull of distractions and minor obligations, you invert the typical day and ensure progress is not left to chance. The deliberate worker also understands trade-offs. Every yes implicitly carries a no to something else. Accepting this truth transforms decision-making. Meetings that lack purpose are declined, emails that add no value are deferred or ignored, and energy-draining tasks are automated or eliminated. This discipline filters out noise, preserving attention for the few actions that matter most. It is not ruthless efficiency for its own sake. It is strategic pruning, removing clutter so what remains can flourish. Research reinforces this shift. Studies from organizational psychology consistently show that high performers do fewer things but execute them at higher levels of intensity and quality. Rather than diluting their attention across dozens of priorities, they concentrate deeply on a handful of leverage points. This mirrors the principle of essentialism. Success is not about doing more, but about doing what truly moves the needle and doing it exceptionally well. Working smart also means structuring the day around intention rather than reaction. Instead of allowing email and messaging platforms to dictate priorities, deliberate workers schedule their communication windows, containing them within execution layers. They craft their day proactively, using the time layering framework to align deep work with peak energy, functional tasks with natural dips, and micro-rest with necessary recovery. This structure defends focus and prevents the constant context switching that erodes both performance and energy. Shifting from busy to deliberate changes how success is measured. It is no longer about how much was done but about what was accomplished. Crossing 10 trivial items off a list cannot compare to advancing one significant project. This reframing also alters the experience of work itself. Instead of ending the day drained from scattered activity, you close it with a sense of progress and purpose, knowing that your efforts were concentrated on what truly mattered. This sense of alignment fuels motivation and strengthens the habit of deliberate focus. Practical implementation begins with 3 simple actions. Define the single most important task for the day, protect a deep work block to advance it, and reserve energy for intentional renewal. Over time, this cycle erodes reactive habits and ingrains a rhythm of purposeful action. The result is a compounding loop where clarity feeds focus, focus drives results, and results reinforce the discipline of clarity. Busyness feels urgent but achieves little. Deliberate work feels steady but achieves much. In the next chapter, we will explore real-world examples of high performers who embody this approach, illustrating how layered time and deliberate focus converge to deliver extraordinary results without extraordinary hours. Busyness is reactive. Deliberate work is intentional and goal-driven. Fewer priorities executed deeply outperform scattered efforts on many. Purposeful structure replaces noise with clarity, focus, and sustainable output. What busy work in your day could be eliminated or deferred to create space for deliberate focus? Tonight, identify tomorrow's single most important task and reserve a deep work block to tackle it first. Chapter 11: Time Layering in the Wild Case Studies of High Performers. Theory becomes conviction when it meets evidence, and the time layering trick proves itself most clearly through those who live it daily. High performers across disciplines consistently leverage layered focus, execution, and recovery to amplify output while avoiding exhaustion. Their routines reveal how universal this approach is, regardless of industry or role, and how deliberate structuring of time transforms results without requiring longer hours. Consider the technology executive responsible for overseeing multiple product lines and a global team. Instead of drowning in meetings, he begins his day with 2 uninterrupted hours reserved for deep work on strategic initiatives. During this window, devices are silenced, and his calendar is blocked. This habit allowed him to develop a clear roadmap that accelerated launch timelines by weeks. He credits these focus sessions with creating the mental bandwidth to think beyond urgent fires and direct his team toward high-leverage priorities. Functional tasks, approvals, status updates, and quick decisions are batched into late-morning execution blocks, leaving afternoons for micro-rest and leadership check-ins. In creative industries, layering is equally powerful. A best-selling novelist structures her writing in 2 deep work sessions, one in the early morning and another in late afternoon. Each session is followed by deliberate breaks, short walks, or meditation, to clear mental residue before returning to her work. Administrative tasks, correspondence with her publisher, and marketing efforts are confined to midday execution blocks when her energy naturally dips. She credits this structure with maintaining a steady output of polished pages without the burnout that plagued her earlier career when writing and operational demands blended chaotically. Even in high-stakes fields like finance, where pace is relentless, layering thrives. A portfolio manager integrates deep work blocks for market analysis and strategy before trading hours intensify. During the trading day, he shifts into medium-focused tasks like monitoring positions and communicating with clients. Brief recovery windows, breathing exercises, and short outdoor walks are inserted between market sessions to maintain clarity under pressure. By aligning his work with natural energy cycles, he sustains sharp decision-making even during volatile periods, a critical edge in his profession. Athletics also provide vivid demonstrations of layering's principles. Elite coaches and sports scientists design training regimens that mirror cognitive layering, intense practice drills followed by lower-intensity technical work and deliberate recovery. A professional basketball player, for instance, dedicates mornings to high-focus skill development, afternoons to film study and tactical planning, and evenings to light stretching and rest. This mirrors deep work, functional execution, and micro-rest, proving that performance, mental or physical, relies on rhythm and renewal rather than continuous strain. Corporate teams applying layering show their scalability. A marketing department adopted synchronized deep work blocks across the team, eliminating internal messaging for 2 hours each morning. Collective focus accelerated campaign development and cut project timelines by nearly a third. Afternoon execution blocks addressed feedback loops and operational work, while short, enforced breaks kept energy consistent. The shift not only improved results but also reduced stress, as employees no longer felt tethered to constant reactive communication. These case studies illustrate a pattern. Deep work protects high-value creation, functional execution clears operational demands efficiently, and micro-rest renews energy for the next cycle. Layering creates structure without rigidity, fitting seamlessly into diverse contexts by respecting human energy patterns rather than fighting them. High performers across fields converge on this same rhythm not by coincidence but by necessity, because it is how the brain and body are wired to sustain excellence. The lesson is clear: Time layering is not reserved for a select few but is accessible to anyone willing to architect their day deliberately. In the final chapter, we will turn this insight into a direct challenge, a 7-day layering experiment designed to embed this rhythm into your own life and prove its impact firsthand. High performers across industries use layering to sustain output without burnout. Deep work, execution, and recovery adapt seamlessly to diverse roles and contexts. Structured cycles create compound results by aligning with natural energy rhythms. Which of these case studies most mirrors your work, and how could you adopt their layering approach tomorrow? Choose one layering habit from these examples, such as a protected morning deep work block, and implement it for the next 7 days. Take care and be well.